Welcome to the Ferrari Portofino M, a car named after a beautiful fishing village in northwest Italy near Genoa. But it doesn't take a geography expert to work out that we're not in Genoa, we're in Berkshire. And this is meant to be the first day of summer, but I'm in a jumper and it's horrible. So it's a good job that this has got a metal folding roof.
And while you're waiting these 14 seconds for that hood to go up, you might as well subscribe to the Auto Express channel and click on the bell icon to get notifications as soon as new videos, news stories and track battles go live. Of course, the Portofino name isn't new to the current Ferrari range, but the M suffix is. It's been used in the past on the 512, the 456 and various other Ferraris to signify a significant midlife facelift. Here, that letter has introduced a number of things, many of which Ferrari learned when creating the Roma, which is essentially a coupe relation of the Portofino. The pair are mechanically very similar, though the posy nature of that roof means that they are aimed at two quite different types of Ferrari buyer. The Portofino's biggest rivals come from the British, in particular the sublime Bentley Continental GT convertible. At £175,000, the Bentley and the Ferrari are priced at within a couple of grand of each other. So what does the prancing horse have to offer?
Let's start with the styling then, which compared to the smooth, curvy Roma is altogether sharper and more angry looking. For this M model, Ferrari has tweaked the bumpers at the front compared to the previous Portofino. Along the flanks, it's pretty much the same. You still get the same metal roof as well, whereas around the back, there's a much larger diffuser. Let's take a look inside. Now the first thing you notice in here is that the Portofino looks largely similar to how it did before. It doesn't take on the Roma's new portrait style dashboard design, which is a shame because that does look really slick. It does manage to keep a bit of difference between the two though. You'll notice in the back there are a pair of seats there, but I have no idea who's fitting into those. But the key differences in here are the fact that there is a little race mode on the Maranello switch, which we'll come to later. And also, which is very nice on a day like this, you can get the option of heated seats now.
It definitely feels special, but in a very different way to the ultra luxurious, beautifully finished Bentley. It feels more stripped back, more focused, as ready for a track day as much as it is a relaxed cruise across a continent. But that's exactly what you'd expect from a Ferrari. What you might appreciate are the details. Details like the glorious red crackle finish to the intake plenums of that V8 engine, or the starter button that wakes the 3.9 litre unit into life. Get out onto the road though, and there's one thing about the way it drives that might not be the first thing you thought would immediately spring to mind.
Now weirdly, the first thing that strikes you about the way the Portofino drives is just how well it rides. Even with the adaptive dampers in their firmest setting, it's really smooth over bumps. But then you press this bumpy road mode, which relaxes the dampers just a little bit more and it just gets even more settled. And the second benefit that gives you is just confidence when you're driving along a difficult road. I've driven along this stretch in all kinds of cars, from the most boring estate cars to the most mad, crazy performance SUVs. And I can't think of anything else which feels so well tied down along here. What that means is that you have the confidence to actually make the most of that power, and you will want to make the most of that power. Now under the bonnet there's the same 3.9 litre twin turbocharged V8 as before, except Ferrari's given it just a little tickle, so it makes 20 horsepower more. Now the total output stands at 612 brake horsepower. Now for reference, a Ferrari F50 had 99 brake horsepower less, and this is the baby of the Ferrari range. And that means that it goes just a little bit something like this. And this new gearbox is a really great unit. If you're using the manual paddles behind the steering wheel, it's really sharp and snappy and responds well to your inputs, but press this auto button down here and it takes care of all the work for you, and it's really relaxing to drive. Most impressive of all is that unlike a lot of DSG gearboxes which jerk around awkwardly like a learner driver at low speeds, this one actually just behaves itself really nicely. It's actually really impressive. The Portofino M was never going to feel as sharp as the Roma to drive, mainly because there's an extra 94 kilos back there for all of that roof mechanism. And as a result, Ferrari has retuned the suspension to cope with all of that extra mass back there. Saying that, when you compare this to something like a Bentley Continental GT, it still feels like a proper supercar.
So then, some numbers. 0 to 62 takes 3.45 seconds. 0 to 124 miles an hour takes 9.8 seconds. And Ferrari quotes a top speed of over 199 miles an hour. So plenty then. That 0 to 124 time in particular shows the improvements over the old car because it's a full second faster. Not only does the power boost help, but also a new 8-speed dual clutch gearbox plays a part. It replaces the old 7-speeder, and the first 7 ratios of the new box are much shorter to boost acceleration, while 8th is longer to make it an even better cruiser than before.
Now if I just pop the boot, you will see a little plaque up here. Now every new Ferrari gets this, and it denotes all of the options that were fitted from the factory. And there are some quite fascinating ones on this with some pretty alarming prices, so I'm going to talk you through them. This carbon fibre front splitter, £3,360. The high power hi-fi system, £3,552. I mean, you get a JBL hi-fi in a Toyota Yaris. That little bit of aluminium there, 480 quid. These lovely bits of carbon fibre trim here, £2,496. But that's not as much as this passenger display here, £3,360, just for that.
But one thing even Toyota doesn't give you is Ferrari's after-sales service. Every Ferrari comes with 7 years free servicing at a main dealer, even if you bought it second-hand. I bet you didn't know that. And while the average Ferrari owner is not going to give 2 hoots about fuel bills, the fact that the Portofino M does 28.5 miles to the gallon means that you'll spend less time mingling with the general unwashed than you might think. So how does the Ferrari Portofino M rank then? Well, it's possible to trace the roots of this car back to the California, which by Ferrari's high standards left us a little underwhelmed back in the day. This is a completely different proposition though. Not only is it miles better than that car, but it's a huge leap forward over the previous Portofino. It feels as ballistic and as thrilling as a Ferrari should be when you're on it, and comfortable and refined when you're not. Is it as relaxing as the Bentley Continental GT? No, but then the Bentley can't be hustled along a twisty road in the same way that you can with this car. In the end, the choice comes down to personal preference. There really is not a wrong answer here. Refinement or excitement? Wood or carbon fibre? A fabric hood or a metal one? The fact is, if the choice comes down to these two, then we're just a little bit envious.